Hi, Paraton weather meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, June 14th. A comfortable morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region. We had a relatively comfortable weekend for this time of the year, and certainly more pleasant air is coming by the middle of the week. It will be kind of a reinforcing shot of comfortable air for this time of the year. Upper level low develops over the northeast, over the Great Lakes region. At the same time, strong high pressure throughout the atmosphere will intensify and expand over the western U.S. The result will be extreme heat out across much of the western U.S. and again, very pleasant conditions across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the northeastern part of the country. Later this week or by early this weekend, it looks like we'll talk about tropical activity, very likely to form over the Gulf of Mexico and then head northward, probably towards Louisiana, certainly anywhere along the Texas, Louisiana, and into the central Gulf region should be on alert for a potential system late this week into the weekend. It would be officially the second such system. We had kind of an inconsequential storm earlier this year. This, if it developed into a tropical storm, would be named Bill, and again, something we'll watch for at the end of this week. Let's start off by taking a look at the nationwide radar map from WSI's and telecast.com. A few areas of interest. First of all, this line of showers and embedded thunderstorms crossing the eastern Great Lakes right now is associated with a cold frontal system that will continue to move to the south and east, likely to produce some scattered to even more widespread type showers and thunderstorms in the I-95 corridor region, much of the Mid-Atlantic region later today into tonight. Some of those storms can be on the strong side. Unstable air mass across the deep south here could produce some strong thunderstorm activity as well later today. And actually a batch right here in the middle part of the nation also could produce some strong to potentially severe weather later on today. Most of the southwest enjoying dry weather. Actually not enjoying, it's been too dry there, not unusual at all for this time of the year, but drought conditions out in the southwestern part, and all of this area out here in the western U.S. will experience some extreme heat. Phoenix, Arizona, Yuma, Arizona, for example, potentially up to 115, 120 degrees this week as again, very strong high pressure intensifies and expands over the western part of the nation. And here's a look from the NOAA Storm Prediction Center in terms of the probability of severe weather later on today. And there's a slight chance up across the Mid-Atlantic region with that approaching cold frontal system right in this region right here. Watch for some potential strong storms later on today into tonight. Also, a couple other areas of interest out here, eastern side of the Rockies and across the deep south. There's a very juicy air mass down there. So really three areas that could have some strong thunderstorm activity late in the day. And again, dry across the southwestern states. Well, certainly kind of a pattern change this week will yield extreme heat out in the western U.S. and again, more comfortable conditions across the Great Lakes and northeast, the Midwest, as deep upper level low forms by the middle part of the week. This is the upper air pattern as we begin the day on Monday. High pressure out here across the Four Corners region. Lots of above normal heights all the way up to the U.S.-Canadian border. Notice it's blue here over the northeast, associated with a deep upper level feature. Watch what happens over the next 48 hours or so. This is Tuesday morning. Definitely a split in the nation here with extreme heat associated with this expanding high pressure system right over the interior part of the western U.S. And look at this upper level low over the northeast, again producing high temperatures in the 70s, let's say Wednesday and Thursday in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and low temperatures in suburban areas along the I-95 corridor. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, probably the low to middle 50s in many areas along the I-95 corridor region, but extreme heat out in the west, and it pretty much continues for much of this week. This is now all the way into Thursday. Look at that upper level low for this time of the year, and that high pressure sitting right over the Four Corners region, and extreme heat from California all the way to the Central Plains and really all the way northward into the near the U.S.-Canadian border region. Again, at the same time, the Great Lakes, the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, the New England area is a very pleasant weather that really will extend from this past weekend all the way into the middle and latter part of this week. And then down here, a reflection over the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico by late this week. That's a reflection of a surface system that will become a tropical, potentially become a tropical storm, and if so, it would become Bill, the second such storm of the season. But this one has certainly a better chance of becoming something more significant than the first storm that occurred earlier this year. Well, how does that upper air pattern translate to temperatures down closer to the surface level? Let's take a look at 850 millibar temperature anomalies for the next several days. Already well above normal across the western U.S., and that high is only intensifying right now at all levels of the atmosphere. Again, it was focused over, concentrated right over the Four Corners region. So very, very hot conditions for the next several days in the western U.S. But watch in the northeastern part of the nation with that upper level low just intensifying here. Comfortable conditions. Really, this past weekend was quite comfortable in the Mid-Atlantic region. It's only a reinforcing comfortable air mass by the middle part of the week. Again, overnight lows potentially down into low to middle 50s across suburban areas in the I-95 corridor. Not bad at all for the middle part of June. But meantime, they'll be experiencing some extreme heat out across the western U.S. And this pattern just continues for much of this week. This is now all the way into Thursday. Hot across California to the Central Plains and up to the U.S.-Canadian border. Very comfortable, comfortably cool in some cases here, below normal across the northeastern quadrant of the nation. Well, let's look at some surface weather maps. There are some showers and thunderstorms right now across New England, but another batch is forming over the eastern part of the Great Lakes with an incoming cold frontal system. Let's move forward here. Here comes the rain associated with that incoming cold frontal system, and again, could be some strong thunderstorms, especially across upstate Pennsylvania, maybe southern part of New York associated with this frontal passage late today, early tonight. Again, could be some scattered strong thunderstorms across the deep south and the eastern part of the Rockies into the Central Plains. Dry, hot out across the southwestern states. Let's move forward here. And here we go by the middle part of the week. High pressure over the Great Lakes, and that's a nice Canadian high. Northerly winds from all the way up the Hudson Bay region, pumping cool air into the northeastern part of the nation. The Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, New England. Very pleasant conditions at midweek. Wednesday and Thursday look like spectacular days for this time of the year. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, all the way into Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, we have a thermal low represented here at the surface. It gets so hot it actually produces its own low pressure system near the surface. Hot air right at the surface level. Very hot across Arizona, New Mexico, California, Nevada, Utah, all the way out in much of the western U.S. And that hot weather extends all the way up to near the U.S.-Canadian border. Let's go out a little bit farther in time and kind of focus in on the Gulf of Mexico. Here we are now by Thursday morning. Activity forming here over the southern Gulf. Beautiful high pressure remains over the eastern part of the nation. And this system that could form very possibly can head northward right towards Louisiana by the upcoming weekend. If it does develop into a tropical storm, it would be named Bill. Could eventually head north towards Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe even eastern Texas, and then maybe northeast and bring some rains all the way up into the mid-Atlantic region by the early part of next week. And here we go by Saturday morning. Here is that potential tropical system. Again, not the first one of the year. We had kind of an inconsequential one earlier in the year, but this would be Bill, the second named system, if in fact it reaches tropical storm status. And eventually it could bring some rainfall to the north and east into much of the mid-Atlantic, maybe in the northeastern part of the nation by the early part of next week. So something we'll keep an eye on over the Gulf of Mexico late this week. That's it for now. For ParatonWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.